Hello, good evening. Welcome to another episode of Grant Talks Funny Bits. Hopefully you can all hear me okay. Every week we have some kind of technical issue. Generally, it's me that I've either not plugged something in or have unplugged something. I can hear me now, so that's all good. So we have had expert hypnotists from around the world. We had a great guy last week. I hope you guys caught that, Michael Mesmer. Some fascinating stories and some great information there. We have hypnotists from all around the world that are kind of sharing their stories, what brought them to the stage, what they're doing now. And tonight is one of the closest hypnotists as such. He is on a small island just across the water from where we are here. He is from the wonderful place of Ireland. This guy's made an absolutely massive name for himself, both in clinical and with stage stuff and in the wedding industry as well. So without any further ado, we're going to play this graphic, and then on the other side, you can welcome Jason O'Callaghan. He should appear on, I think, is it this side? Well, I got it right. I got it right. It's this side. Jason, hello, how are you?
Hello, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on. And it's nice to have someone that's, like I said, fairly local. We spoke earlier today about the time zones. And I'm always dead nervous about time zones, but I didn't know whether we were on the same one or not. And luckily we are. We've just got a couple of hellos as well whilst we're here. Richard Cole, fantastic.
Richard Cole. I'm Richard Cole. That's the Richard Cole, the legend.
The legend.
Canadian legend is online.
There we go. And Natasha Stanley is here as well. She says, good evening. And Brian Glenn says, hey, Grant, great to be back. Have a great evening. Brian's on, I think he's on Escape to the Sun. He's on TV. I think it's at some point this week. So, yeah, good luck with that, Brian. And it's good to have you back. Jason, tell me a little bit about your first experience with stage hypnosis. How did you discover it? Was it a show that you went to go see? What kind of first introduced you to the world of hypnotism?
I suppose what is interesting is that I only started doing stage hypnosis around 6 years ago. And I did for 10 years before that. I was doing, or 15 years before that, I was doing wedding music. I was in a wedding band. I paid my way through psychology school in a wedding band, roughly from 2003 onwards. And then I kind of, around 6, 7, 8 years ago, the market went to shit, a saturated market of wedding bands and big companies coming in, sort of putting out 50 different bands under the same name. The market just completely diluted. So I sort of figured out, well, I did the clinical, I'm doing clinical 10 years. And then I wondered, could I merge the clinical alongside the stage, figure out a way of doing that. So I started sitting on my laptop in my office in between clients, watching videos by like guys who are now friends of mine, not just yourself, but also Justin Trance, Mark Savard, Anthony Gailey. A lot of these guys are now good friends of mine. Derek Watkins in America. So a lot of these guys, I would have just sat and watched the videos going, I wonder, could I? Because anyone who does this knows, especially where we are in Europe, there's not very many colleges you can go to. You can't sign up and do a course. In Ireland, we have a legend, which you see there coming online, Adrian Knight, who's been doing this 25 years. And he's up the north of Ireland. There's Dale Thomas in the north.
Adrian is actually here now. He just says hi.
Yeah, I just saw him there coming online. He's so within Ireland, in the Republic, in the south of Ireland, there was nobody doing the wedding market. So myself and Adrian work very close together. He sort of would do the north of the border, I did the south, and we swap over. So we have the sort of market to ourselves. And because I knew the wedding market, I jumped on top of that. Yeah. Got one wedding, and actually the first show I did was I did one in a pub, where everyone sort of starts off, a shitty pub where I had a shitty stage in a corner, and one guy fell off the stage. It was like we got one guy. Yeah, everyone sort of says. Everyone wants to be hypnotist, says, where do you start off? And I kind of said, I start off in a shitty pub, the same as most people start off, because nobody will give you a gig. And then from that, I did a deal with, I think it was Groupon, and I got a function room, hired a video guy, did a function in this function room with all free tickets, invited everybody on Facebook, invited everyone out to get a crowd, got a good crowd, got a video, and then started selling it to the wedding market. And it just, it's especially down here, I know people will say in the UK or North or wherever they're doing weddings for years, but I know definitely in the wedding market in the Republic, it wasn't known. Like everyone I've talked to, any couple of everyone I've got, oh, it was a great idea. I've never heard of it. So it was a unique idea, and like there's only 2 or 3 of us the whole island, so out of 5-6 million people. So we pretty much one of us is going to get the gig. The competition isn't too strong over here, unlike other parts of the world.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting that you say, because I always have this theory that a lot of the guests that have come on that are successful stage hypnotists tend to have an entertainment background as well before they come into doing stage hypnosis, because I think that's part of it. And I always say when therapists come to the stage, they bring the therapy with them rather than the entertainer with them. You tick both of those boxes. You were a therapist first, and you're an entertainer. So do you think those things gave you kind of being a entertainer already helped you with the stage shows?
Yeah, I think the most important thing that anyone would, I spent a lot of time in Vegas with Richard Cole over there. I spent myself and Adrian talk. A lot of people talk. I talk to yourself, and the one thing I learned, whether you're talking about guys in Vegas, whether you're talking Savard, whether you're talking just the trance, doesn't matter. If you're talking big names around the world that we're friends with, it's, in my experience, it's not whether you're good at stage, it's not whether you're good at clinical, it's firstly if you're good at the business side of it. And that's really that's really the key is understanding. So as someone said to me before, once you get this, it's not that difficult to hypnotize someone. It's difficult to be a good showman, but it's even harder to get gigs. There's plenty of brilliant hypnotists or brilliant clinical hypnotists who get no work because they don't understand the business. So I think the marketing, like I'm the first to admit I'm probably not the best stage hypnotist in the world. I'm not the best clinical hypnotist in the world. I'm probably not the best marketer. I would have to say that Richard, in your English friend, Richard Barker, is probably the best marketer in the world. But I'd like to consider my marketing skills pretty good. And marketing is probably the number one skill. And then, as regards clinical, I'm lucky that I came to hypnosis a bit later, and I happen to have a degree in psychology and a master's degree in psychology, which gives me a huge amount of credibility in an unregulated business. So within my own sort of clinical work, I tend to get a lot of business coming in and professionals. I get doctors, I get lawyers, I get, and I charge a premium, but because I have the qualifications, which is just by chance I had them beforehand. And I used to be a journalist as well. I was a journalist for 10 years before I did psychology.
I think that is a great skill set to have. PR as well, because I know you've managed to get some really good publicity on the back of some of the things that you've done. How has that helped you?
Like the big thing we did, the one thing I learned was when I started off in the clinic 10 years ago, again, I did a deal with Groupon. I had no customers, I had no money. So I did a deal with Groupon to do the gastric band. The gastric band hypnosis is what I'm known for, because that product just jumped out at me when I started doing this clinical stuff. Gastric band, I just thought it was a fabulous subject. And people, it just works for me. It's always been my cash cow. And I kind of found that what I did was, as regards to marketing, is I got one guy came back 3 months later and emailed me and said, "Oh, I just want to let you know I've lost 6 stone." I was like, "Shit, really?" I was more of a surprise. So I had him in, paid him a few bob, and did before and after pictures. And then we started using him to get more people in. And then it sort of, we used more and more and more and got to the stage where we were able to get on TV with people and then get those clips. So it's really, like I mentioned, about starting the stage, getting a clip of you doing a show to sell. And then it's the same with the clinic, getting clips of, here's, we have a bus driver who lost 6 stone. We have a housewife who lost 7 stone. Whatever it is, that's what I found works really well.
How do you think doing the stage shows, the demonstrations, the entertainment side of hypnosis, how do you think that's had an impact on your clinical side? Do you think there's a lot of therapists that kind of look at stage hypnosis and see is it belittles hypnotherapy, and there's a lot of guys that believe it benefits hypnotherapy. How much do you think that has an impact on your marketing for your therapy practice as well?
Yeah, I one thing is on my the website you're showing there, the D4 clinic, is our reason it's called D4, because a lot of people are going to go, why did you call it D4? In Ireland, just away in England, you've got Harley Street. You'll see that website address. So Harley Street will be, where you expect the best in London. In America, it would be Beverly Hills or wherever. In Ireland, our postcodes are D1, Dublin 1, Dublin 2, Dublin 3, and Dublin 4 would be the very exclusive area. So the reason I call the clinic D4, in case people are wondering, is because it's the posh area of
Yeah.
Dublin. But on the website, on the D4 clinic, we don't mention anything about stage shows. There's no mention of stage or anything like that at all. But on the JasonO'Callaghan.com, which is my show website, there's a lot of mention about clinical, if you want to stop smoking, because I didn't want people, coming in for serious stuff and then seeing me, doing the people jumping around horses, whatever it is. But the other way on the Jason O'Callaghan side, I don't mind the people see I help people stop smoking. So it's kind of weird, and I have to admit, my first line to every client in the clinic that comes in, I say, okay, don't be nervous. This isn't a magic show. I'm not going to swing a watch, because people come in and they're shitting themselves that we're going to do this type of stuff. So I think there's a fine line you have to go between the both. I have no problem with clinical, and I have no problem with stage, and I don't think there should be. If you're good at both, there's no problem. Like, actually, the more famous you become at stage, the more people will come to you for clinical. So, like, I know people have mentioned that we all know, globally, the big names that we have millions of views on Facebook and YouTube. They charge a premium. They're stage hypnotists, but they charge a premium to do clinical work. So one feeds off the other, I think.
So Richard Cole says nothing says posh more than Jason O'Callaghan.
Oh, I'm classy to the end. But it's about making money. That's what it's about at the end of the day.
Yeah. One of the things that I must point out as well, and when you first put the promo pictures up for it, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I mean, you go out in morning tails, top hat.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I'm a big believer in dressing well for the stage.
I'm not dressed up today. I'm sorry. I don't dress up for you, Grant.
Well, even I've said that before. But yeah, I absolutely love that, because it's a throwback to the old days of stage hypnosis, but with a little modern twist on it as well. So that's really cool, is that?
Well, what's interesting about that is one of my close friends is the manager of the Irish WWE star Sheamus. I'm not a big fan, but I know if anyone watches WWE, you'll see Sheamus, who's the guy with the red Mohican and the beard, and he's making millions. And my best pal's his manager, and he's created this character, Sheamus, and the guy's name is Stephen, and he's from he was a bouncer in the club he used to go to. My friend got involved with him, but he told me his original advice to me when I started doing this was he wanted me to have an idea of being a professor. That was the original idea, because of the psychology was sort of crooked Stephen Hawkins glasses and a dusty suit, and I would come out sort of him and Han and sort of in that type of character. But then, as you say, like if you look at movies like The Prestige, I know we're not magicians, but if you look at that type of vibe and the wedding market, and I'm trying to sell, like my market would be 4-star. I always sort of say that, and why I say that is 4-star hotels is the market. The 3-star hotels, the pub weddings, they haven't got the money to spend on a wedding. The 5-star people, they probably aren't going to want people riding around chairs pretending to be horse riding and on their wedding. So you got the 4-star market, and the idea of sort of the class. So I wear the tails and the top hat, and it works well. It really works. It works very well for me, And it's when I went to Vegas myself, and Mr. Cole spent a lot of time in Vegas talking about this, and it just it's about coming up, because he's that hypnotist guy, and I'm the Victorian hypnotist, or the guy in top hat and tails, and Justin's the hip hop hypnotist, and everyone has. So you're the cruise ship hypnotist. You're Mr. Cruise Ship. So it just depends on what works for you, and it's about creating a persona, and it's show business at the end of the day.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, Christopher Grass is the cruise ship guy, hands down. That is definitely his thing. And another absolute superstar when it comes to hypnosis. Jason Nobby Morgan says, sorry he's late. What has he missed? Not much, Jason. All the important stuff.
Hypnotist talking shit. Yeah. That should be the name.
We always ask guests about their worst show. And to me, it's important to know, because there's people that's watching that maybe have had a bad show and it makes them question stuff. But tell us about your worst show and what you learned from that.
Well, the interesting thing about it is that if you, for years when I was in the band, sorry, my son's coming in to get paper here. You have to forgive me for a second. Ethan, my son's coming in to get paper. He wants to join the video. He wants to draw pictures. So what I noticed is that when you're with the band, you can make a lot more mistakes, because you haven't got just yourself on your own. Sorry, there you go. Ethan says hello to everybody there, by the way. Go inside, Ethan, close the door. I'm listening to Sky News with the kids running into the room halfway through the interview. So when you're at the band, which I did for so long, you've got a couple of guys on the dance floor. They don't like this song, you change to that song. You don't like this song, you change to that song. You figure it out. But when it comes to what we do, people often say to me, "Oh, stand-up comedy is the hardest gig," and I say no. Being a hypnotist is the hardest gig, because if no one's hypnotized, we're all going home. A comedian can say a joke, and he's going to do a 10-20 minute set. We're there for the best part of an hour. If no one's hypnotized, unless you can juggle, you're in trouble. So what I've learned is I've learned a number of things. First, when I did some training with Justin a couple of years ago, and we talked about the 100 monkey. I don't know if you know that trick, the one with the cards. So I keep that in my case. So I learned, I got the 100 monkey card trick. It's one where you flash cards at people, and the people away can read it, but the ones up close can't. So I do that as an opening, just to, if it all goes tits up, at least we've done a bit of magic at the start of the show, or I still have a few backing tracks on my iPad that will do a song, we have to. But the worst show is definitely when you sometimes you turn up at a wedding, and with respect, and I say this to everyone watching, they can be, sometimes you'll turn up at a wedding and they can be really drunk, or it can be what we call a very working class wedding, where they're kind of a little bit rough around the edges, and you get especially if they're drinking all day at a wedding. You got to remember, it's not like a show where you go on at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock and they just have one drink. These people could be drunk all day. So there's been a couple of weddings where you kind of, and even in college shows sometimes. I did one last year, a college show before the lockdown, and they had me in a marquee because the what you call it had gone a fire at the hall where the show's only on a fire. So it had a marquee outside, but it was an open marquee in Ireland in like winter, and there was like 6 people in there and they couldn't hear me. So I was able to put some light trances on people. But the thing you get is when you put people under and they're sort of sitting there, and then you start, and I would always start with the warm, cold routines, you're getting colder and nothing happens. You're getting colder, you're getting colder. You can feel the chills, and they're just sitting there going, look around, and you're going, oh shit, what am I gonna do? So, weddings, why I charge a premium and why a lot of people won't do it is because you're dealing with the most important time of someone's life, and you can't really afford to mess it up. So the standard has to be very high. And as I said, I got a couple of tricks. I do a lot of comedy, I do a bit of magic, and then I jump into the hypnosis. And even if I'm doing finger locks, arm locks, if I'm doing eye locks, anything like that, my wife will always say to me, always remember that the people don't know what to expect. I want every volunteer under 100%, and I want them really good subjects. I want 10 really good subjects who are all following everything you do. And sometimes you only get 3, or sometimes you get 4, or sometimes you get 6. You don't know. And she said to me, look, always remember, they don't know what to expect. If you're getting people's fingers sticking together, or hands sticking together, or eyes sticking together, or they can't stand up, that's the show. So I think something really interesting that Anthony Gailey, who I'm a big fan of, he said was that, I think Orm McGill probably said this as well, is that the induction should be part of the show. Absolutely. And a lot of hypnotists, and I know Justin Trans, who's a good friend, we work together, he'd disagree. He'd go, I'm going to be quick. But if you watch Justin's videos, he'll spend 45 minutes in a theater setting doing an induction. And, so even though a lot of us will say you'll get the induction bang straight down, so you gotta spend a bit of time on the act. That's the key behind it.
Yeah. Ian Rogers says, at what point in the wedding day do you do your bit? Is it at the night do?
It's really interesting because I said this was purely a new experience for me. And no one, as I said to you, nobody down here in Ireland, in the Republic part anyway, had seen a hypnotist at a wedding. The odd time, but no young couples had heard of it. So I would traditionally do the show. The prime spot, which I charge the most for, is at the end of the meal. So the way that weddings work here would be different to different parts of the world. So our weddings would start with a sort of drinks reception between 4 and 6, a meal between 6 and half 8, and then a band and a DJ. I would go on around half 8. At the end of the meal, take over from the best man, get people up on the dance floor, get everyone doing the suggestibility test, pick up a couple of volunteers from that, and then do the show while the band are setting up behind me. So I say to the couples, you want to avoid the lull at your wedding. I've just made up a lull. They're like, oh shit, I don't want to miss a lull. I don't want my wedding to be crap. What will I do? So I just go, well, you don't want to miss a lull. So I'll fill in that gap 8:30 to 9:30. And that was such a demand that I was doing 100, 120. You got to think about it. There's only so many Fridays and Saturdays in a year.
Yeah.
So I figured out, well, I can do it 8:30 to 9:30. We're a pretty small country. You can get from one side of the country to the other in 2 or 3 hours. So what I do now is I do a prime show, high rate of fee for 8:30 to 9:30. I will then do, if someone rings for the same date, I will do a start of meal show. And that's when you mentioned the costume and all that. What I say to the couples is, look, I'm booked at 8:30 somewhere. And then what I say is, however, your wedding is an hour and a half from the other venue. I can do a 5 to 6 o'clock show. When your guests come into the room, I'll come in the top hat tails. I'll introduce the bride and groom into the room. I'll get the best man up, do the 100 monkey trick, and then do the show. They sit down for the meal at 6. I'm gone. I got 2.5 hours to make it to the next venue. And even at that, I know some years on New Year's Eve especially, I'll finish the 9:30 show, and that gives me another hour and a half to do a band break show, I called it, which is sort of around 11 when the band take a break. I can do a 40-minute show then. So some days I could be doing 3 weddings in one day. Because as I said, most weddings traditionally outside Corona time will be on a Friday and Saturday night. So that's what I found. It's working well. You get 2 really busy days where you can make a lot of money in 2 days, and you're still at home each night rather than having to travel or sell tickets.
Yeah. Dale Thomas is here as well. He says hello. So I think we've got all the Irish wedding hypnotists in here.
Yeah, there's only 4 of us, I think, in the whole place.
It's one of the things about coronavirus is it means that us that are normally out there doing it, we haven't got a chance to sit down as well. Yeah. Natasha Stanley says she'd have to be hypnotized to get married. And Adrian is now talking to Dale, so you guys talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, they just talk about themselves.
Yeah. Interesting marketing then about what you said about how you push it on the weddings that I do. I always sell it as that, just after your ceremony when you're going off to have your pictures taken and your guests kind of bored, it's that cocktail hour, that lull, where I always say it's the way when the guests don't know each other, by having like that on, it gets them talking to each other about whether it's real or not. And then by the time the show's finished, they're either drunk or they're all friends anyway. So it's a great thing.
Also, it's interesting for all the people, Richard is in Canada and other people around the world, Dale's in Northern Ireland. The interesting thing about it is it all depends on what country you're in, because I know the UK, the weddings might be earlier in the day, and America especially earlier in the day, whereas Irish weddings are, what we're like over here, where don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out what Irish wedding is going to be like, and they're world famous. So, it would be more later shows, but as I said, I've done drinks receptions, shows as well. If I got to squeeze in, if people really want me, I'll do a show. As we say, I do a show on a phone box if you promise to turn up. That's what I get from some of the other guys. And so it's a great thing about this is, compared to when I used to do the band and I used to sell at venues, is, these days I find that, you have to sell a lot of tickets and do a lot of promotion to get your money back in a venue. With a wedding, and it's cash a lot of the time for us hypnotists, you turn up, it's an envelope of cash, you're in and out in an hour. You have, I have a small PA system that I bring with me, headset mic. I'm in, I'm out. I'm, literally one walk in with the gear, one walk out with the gear. So it works for me. I said everyone's different.
Yeah. So we have a clip. Thanks for the answers. I've got my first wedding booking. Oh, fantastic. So we've got a short clip here from a wedding that you've done. I'll play this and then we'll have a chat on the other side.
These words to the children to read these words, yeah, good man. Loud as you can get. Karen 3. You're getting warmer and warmer by touching. You're going red by touching. You're going thirsty. You're warm all this. The cold is coming out. The cold is coming out. It's so warm. You're pedaling. You're not pedalo. Fucking bike. Pedal. That's lovely. I feel the water around your ankles. And Mr. Michael Flatley, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gents, the world's greatest Irish dancers and their backing dancers. And as that happens, 1, 2, 3. Give a round of applause. Please welcome our world's greatest Irish dancers here. have a drink, so we're going to do the show. You just weren't suitable for the hypnosis. We're going to start in a while. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for coming over. We're going to start the show in a while. Go and have a drink. Ladies and gents, my name is Jason O'Connell, and I hope you enjoyed yourselves. We're going to hand over to the band and DJ. Thank you. Good night.
I always love the kind of post hypnotics afterwards.
Yeah.
The
Adrian Knight's going to be saying, "You robbed that Michael Flatley gig on me." That's what he's going to say. And I especially love the little chubby kid walking across the camera right at the wrong time.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the thing with weddings, though. It's there's less control in some senses because it's
completely chaotic. Yeah. But the interesting about that is you'll see at the start I was doing the 100 monkey with the best man, so that little trick works, gets people going. And the post hypnotic suggestion of the howling wolf thing for every time they have a drink afterwards. David's asking, how do I warm up people? I don't do anything. I am a very nice, polite, quiet guy in public until I go on stage. And once I go on stage, I then believe in abusing every punter in the room, because I don't warm them up, but I do a lot of, as we'd say in our part of the world, taking the piss out of them. One thing I've learned, and again, it's from watching, guys on this forum, Adrian, other people, the one thing I've learned over the past few years is you really have to take control of the room from the minute you take the microphone. It's really, really important. Yeah. You can't have the sort of piss head in the corner going, you can't hypnotize me. So the thing is, the great reason I use that 100 monkey, so you can buy it, anyone wants to know, you can buy it on Penguin Magic. It's got a couple of cards in it, and I get the cards printed and made bigger, A4, keep them in a case, and then I bring them with me for every show. And it just means if you get some sarky bastard at the start who's making comments, I bring him up and I completely take the piss out of him by taking away his ability to read. And I do a little bit of hand waving and, no, you can't read, blah, 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 abracadabra, whatever. And he then shuts up for the whole night. He sort of skulks in the corner for the rest of the night. So that's the warm-up I would sort of say to people, is that you need to take over the room from the minute you walk on the dance floor or dance on the stage, and you really got to own the room, and be a little bit arrogant, but it's only because if you don't, you're just going to get destroyed, and you really have to soup up the confidence a little bit more,
And when you're dealing with people that have had drinks, especially,
yeah.
If you don't make an example of the person that's not paying attention, if you destroy them as such, it sets the tone for the rest of the room, so they kind of go, we're going to sit and enjoy this, rather than getting picked on as well. So a couple of things from that clip that I really enjoyed, that people might not notice as such. On the start of the Michael Flatley skit, I love how a new hypnotist fail with this all the time. They fire a suggestion, and whilst that suggestion is just starting to work, it's not at where it needs to be yet, kind of leave it at that because they're worried that it's not going too far. I love at the start of the Michael Flatley, there's, you've got one guy that's gone off brilliantly, and then you've got a few of them that are a bit nervous, but you can hear your tone goes more commanding, and you raise it up, which makes them raise it up, and then that's how you kind of get the most out of that suggestion. So I thought a really good example of that. That's all I showed.
What I find is you have to say, you have to, sort of not hit them, but sort of, come on, you're getting warmer, you're getting faster, it's getting faster, come on, what's wrong with you, and you have to sort of sell it. Another interesting point is, like you said, is even though you'll see these people moving, another important part that I've learned over the years is also that you have to, if there's anyone not just taking the piss, but anyone faking, everyone smirking, like they're gone off the stage. I don't care if I've got one good volunteer left. I'll get rid of all, like that show there you saw. The reason I have that clip, and it's worked very well for me, is that was sent to me by a wedding photographer who's doing the gig, and he sent it to me, and you can see nearly all the seats are taken. Everyone's a good candidate. But again, I'd rather have one or two. My view is always, you can get one good volunteer, you can make a show out of it. And I tailor that down, but my speech, and I would say to the audience, I think we found the star of the show. We're only looking for one or two people. That's the sort of key. So that as far as the punters are know, is it's all gone to plan. You know, you're secretly going, whoa, I've only got one person. It's all gone shit faced. But if you say to the organization, you're going to go to every room, look, we've got our star now, and that's what you focus on. You know, to get yourself out of trouble.
One of the good things, positives for doing weddings as well, is you've kind of got a couple of things that gives you an out as such. I mean, I don't know about yourself, but I know in my pre-talk, I'll kind of mention this is the bride and groom's big day.
Oh, yeah,
So you guys don't want to spoil it for them.
Ruin it for them, yeah.
We're getting volunteers. And the great thing is if you're doing corporate shows, sometimes unless you put it in your rider, it can be difficult to get good quality images or video from it. If you're doing weddings, it's guaranteed there's a professional photographer at least. So you get great images and great footage after shows as well.
It is. I do the exact same thing you just said, Grant. I would use the exact same line, especially at the start of the show. If it's a smaller wedding and if I'm having trouble getting people up, so I would start off by saying, "This is the bride and groom's big day." So you know, they didn't pay for you to come and sit in your arse. Get up and get involved. You know, and that's why you'll see at the end of that clip, you'll see me. The line that I would have said to the volunteers was that I would come out as Neil Diamond. I would say, in a moment, you're going to see him on the stage and microphone. He's going to be Neil Diamond. But unless you get everyone dancing, he's going to go home, you know. So I come out and say, "Oh, I'm Neil Diamond." They all think I'm Neil Diamond, and I start singing using my musical background, and then I get them to go into the audience and get everybody involved. And if people, and I sort of say, you know, if you don't get people dancing, the bride and groom are going to be upset. It's going to be your fault, you know. So it's really it's about guilting people into getting up as volunteers and guilting people into getting involved because of someone else's wedding.
Not that as well. It's by doing the song that kind of everybody knows and everyone's getting involved in. You're tricking them into thinking they're having a good time, even though if they're on their feet, if they're clapping along, if they're having fun. Afterwards, they go, "Oh, wasn't that fun?" It changes the energy in the room. I know someone's just mentioned it in the comments actually, but I have to correct them. Natasha said, "Your show at Belladrum is proof that one person can make a great show." I put a clip from a show I did at Belladrum on TikTok. I think there was 15 people on that stage, but there was just one of them that was brought forward onto the front, so it wasn't a one-person show. But yeah, it's the same thing. You get all the audience clapping along and cheering, and afterwards, everybody knows or thinks they've had a great time because they're telling people everybody were on their feet, everybody was clapping along. And this again, the photographers and the videographers that are there for that wedding, they've got great pictures then of people animated and doing stuff, so you get even more featured. So brilliant, great tip.
And the other thing, Grant, is that you know as well, if you're doing weddings, generally the people at the wedding are other couples. So like if one couple you're doing their wedding and they're probably in their 30s, whatever, it's usually surrounded a lot of our other friends are there who are also maybe getting married or other couples. So you tend to I get emails from people go, because I don't advertise anymore, and I get people saying, "Oh, I saw you at a wedding last year or 2 years ago, or my cousin's wedding or whatever," and that's how you get a lot of work as well, you know. And remember, the interesting about weddings is not just that you don't have to spend any money to promote the show because there's no promotion. Not only are you getting envelopes of money, but also because it's somebody's wedding, they will spend money. It's not like doing a birthday party or even a corporate. You know, I'd love to get the corporate market, but I haven't got there yet. And also corporate markets, you're not going to get them every week. You know, it's got to be more sporadic. So I find that the wedding market
don't have the budget like they used to. Weddings, corporate.
Yeah, I just find with the corporate market, they go more for magicians, especially in my experience. You might get a band, you might get a magician. They're scared of us hypnotists, unless I've done a lot of them, but in general, you know, the reason I focus on weddings is, you know, you can get 2 gigs a week, 3 gigs a week, 4 gigs a week, and you're not killing yourself, you know. And the corporates, you got to watch yourself. You might get this, nobody get involved. You know, it's always they want you to set up early. They want to do this, they want to do that. It's like, you know what? It's more hassle than it's worth, you know. Unless you're getting 10 grand, I'll make an exception if you give me 10 grand. But so I pile them high. I don't sell them cheap. I sell them at a good price. And it works. It's a form that works for me.
Yeah. And again, it's the assets you get from that show. Generally, your volunteers are all well dressed. Split in a room that's dressed nicely. And you've got professional photographers taking picture, and they're the things that help sell more shows.
So
hello. I'll just waffle for a second whilst we get Jason back. I think his internet's just gone. Let me just check on my phone to make sure it's not just me that has gone on. 1 second. If he is there, he will come back to us in a second. Jason, if you could just refresh your screen, or if you could ask your son to come off the internet. There we go. Right, well, I'll just, whilst Jason is trying to figure out what's going on. I mean, Jason has been smashing it over in Ireland, as you all heard. Check out his website. And Jason is going to tell us when he comes back. Oh, he's disappeared. He shall be back. Do not worry. Let me just kick him out and then he should come back. Yeah, I've hypnotized him. Bless him. Yeah, he is going to tell us how he is in a trance. There we go. Brilliant. He's going to tell us about how he's pivoted and what he's done to kind of, bring in that revenue since going into COVID. And I'm just going to waffle for a few moments whilst he does that. Jason has his clinic, which I do believe he franchised at one point as well. And he's got his USB sticks and the stuff that he's doing to sell. I thought I felt you in the air, Adrian. They're feeling each other up in the comment section now. So I'm going to waffle for a couple of more minutes whilst we wait. And this is the joys of going live. One of the things that I've learned, thank you, David. One of the things that I've learned from going into COVID is live streaming. It's an absolute passion of mine. Oh, and he's back now. He is back now. He's just keeping me on my toes. Just 1 second. There we go.
I don't know, was it me or you who went down with somebody?
It was definitely you, I think.
It was definitely me. It wasn't, sorry.
Oh no, it's all right. It's all right. There you go.
To the mobile. But I was saying anyway. Sorry to anyone who hasn't got cut off like me.
Oh no, I always said at the beginning of the show. It's the joys of going live. Something always happens, or something always goes wrong.
Goes wrong. So saying that. So an interesting thing is for those who do clinical, or have a background in clinical or want to do clinical. I found that to get me through the past year, where all our shows have been cancelled. What I found is the best thing to do is we moved online with the clinical stuff and selling pre-recorded sessions, and it's selling through the roof. I'm making more money than I ever did doing the weddings. I still have the weddings, but they're down the road. And now we're making a fortune. And I said the idea, as I mentioned to you earlier, well, it comes from Mark Savard's show. I was originally going to sell a USB with all the weight loss smoke sessions. Now we just have them up online. Anyone who buys them gets an immediate access code through the website. So we're sort of selling money for old rope, and it's going really, really well at the moment.
Yeah. And again, the best time to market that time, after a show, that whole back of room sales is a great time to, whilst people are keen and excited, it's a great time to sell them those products. And like you said, to have that there as well anyway, that you can then put online. I mean, it's one of the things that I failed to kind of embrace video and going live before, and COVID has forced me to do that.
Yeah.
It's we've all had to adjust and pivot our businesses. What are your plans going forward? I mean, I don't know about Ireland, but here we've got a roadmap going forward now. I don't think the word roadmap and pivot has been used as much in the world since COVID's happened, but we've got a roadmap now. Brenda Kay says, great pivot, by the way.
Yeah, well, we have a roadmap. We don't have a roadmap. We have more of a car crash at the moment. Government don't seem to know what they're doing at all. We how can we, our numbers are down, but the problem is for Ireland's going to be is that you have a roadmap in the UK, and as we all know, Northern Ireland's part of the UK. So you're going to have England and Northern Ireland, Scotland, and Wales opening up in July or June, I think, and then the Republic of Ireland, which is literally the border. I could drive to Belfast in an hour and a half, or I could be in the north of Ireland in 50 minutes. A different jurisdiction will have everything open. So our problem is going to be, you can't have the Republic shut down, no nightclubs, bars, weddings on, and then drive 40 minutes up the road and everything's open because everyone's just going to go there. So look, our vaccine program in Ireland isn't as good as it is in other parts of the world. It's a bit slower because we're relying on the European Union, whereas the UK are getting the Oxford vaccine and so on. Like, my weddings are all being moved. I think I'll probably be back doing weddings maybe June, maybe July.
Yeah.
The good thing about it is I'm not losing any weddings. They're just being moved. And that's if I was losing everything, that would be a different thing. But as I said, thanks to I mentioned you earlier. I'll just give a brief story. When I was in Vegas with Richard and the boys at Hypnotist, I saw Savard's show, and I got the idea for the USB key. So any hypnotists who are stage hypnotists who have a bit of audio, a few sessions recorded. I literally went through my phone. I found all these clinical sessions that I'd done, and I just kind of stuck them all up on the page and started selling them through Facebook. And it's got me through the past year. And as I said, I'm making more money in the past year than I did before that, because I pivoted, as you say, to doing clinical stuff online, which, like you said about the videos, I never did that before. I sort of had a couple of CDs and things, but I never sold them, or the odd one. Whereas now, my turnover has gone up maybe tenfold over the past year. I'm doing no shows. I'm doing little or no clinical stuff, but I'm still making huge amounts of money. I don't believe in doing Zoom things. A lot of guys in clinical are doing Zoom, but I don't really believe, because of what just happened there. The signal goes, someone's hypnotized for stop smoking, the signal goes, and you can't get them back because they're hypnotized. So what I do is I pre-record sessions, which I sell at a lower rate, and then I do personal sessions. So, for example, what's working for me is saying to people, I want to help with a phobia or a fear or whatever it is. I pre-record the first 15 minutes of the session. I just duplicate that, and then I add on a custom 15 minutes. So I'm ending up getting like €150 for 15 minutes work. So I'm selling a couple of them each day. I'm selling pre-recorded gastric band stuff. I'm selling bundles with 10 or 15, alcohol, weight loss, stop smoking together. I'm selling it all through Facebook, and it's going really well for me. It's got me through the past year, you know what I mean? And so I'm pretty lucky. I consider myself pretty lucky in the hypnosis world that I've managed to do this,
Yeah, a couple of points as well. Richard Cole says, and I think you've answered this as well, when do you see weddings returning after COVID restrictions lift? And Natasha, I think she's answered that question as well. And she said straight away, I think people who have postponed are keen to get married as soon as possible in case restrictions change and we go back into a lockdown again. And I think Natasha's right.
I think it's going to be what we're hearing, and I do agree with this. Whatever business you're in, it's corporate, whether it's stage, whether it's clinical, whether you're a chauffeur, whether you have a day job as a DJ, it doesn't matter. I think we're going to see what they're calling the roaring 20s after this. It doesn't really matter, even if you're in the holiday business, you're in the cruise ship business. You're going to see once this is over, definitely, hopefully by the summer, but if not by the end of the year, worst case scenario, you're going to see a boom in business. Everyone's going to go on holiday. Everyone's going to be on cruise ships. It's going to be a lot of entertainment needed on cruise ships. It's going to be a lot of needed venues.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like the 2007 crash that we had.
Yeah.
The businesses and the performers and the any people that survive this, when your business can survive this type of a turn down, then when you come out of this, you're coming out of this so much stronger. I believe you're right. I think we will have like a roaring trade for a couple of years after this. I then think, my personal opinion, I think we'll then get a flood of cheap imitations flooding the market because they see an option for easy money, which is kind of what follows that roaring trade thing. But it's cream always finds a way of rising to the top. And like I said, by being resilient, by having those pivots, you're adding extra things to your business model, which going forward just makes you 10 times stronger.
Yeah, well, as you said, exactly what you said there. When I mentioned earlier on, I used to be in the wedding band business, and that's what happened after the last boom, after the crash of 2008. Is that suddenly every plumber decided to start a wedding band, and the market value of the shows went down and down and down and down in the wedding industry, and then companies got involved. As I said, the big thing in Ireland, I don't know if it's around, I think it was in Canada as well, they did in Australia, like some financial guys got involved and put together a brand for wedding bands, and then just sent 4 guys out with the same name, and there was 16 different bands all with the same name performing around the country each night because they're putting 2 million in advertising into it and making millions back. So in a way, I'd like to try and develop stage hypnosis and the online stuff that I'm doing the same way that those guys did it with the band. And also, I look at it like the way, and using our own Irish analogy, is the way that Riverdance did it for Irish dancing. Up to 20 years ago, Irish dancing was just, was something that was done in parish halls over here. Yeah. Riverdance came along and made 100 million by putting a bit of spit and polish into it. So as you say, about the cream coming to the top, like whether it's dressing in the costume, whether it's having a good website, whether it's spending money on your production, on your videos, on your show, on your on your customer service, which I find is one thing in either my clinic or my show. I literally respond to every email within minutes nearly. So I have, and then also having a professional, like I have a limited company, so I'm able to avail of all the tax breaks because we have very low corporation tax here. So for years I made the mistake of doing what every entertainer does, got a cash in the hand, throw it under the mattress. But now that I've become
No
a bit,
idea what you mean. what are
entertainers
you on about?
taking money, never. But what I mean is, I'm learning that, and it's really important for young hypnotists or any of us to sort of realize there's so many things that you can do, copy from real business. Stop looking at us like a sort of performing monkey in the corner. And it's because if you behave like that, you see it yourself. We've all seen it in the bar trade over the years. Bar managers treating us like crap. Like treat entertainment like crap. Whereas if you price yourself nice and high, you provide a good quality product, you got good websites, you got good customer service, you got a VAT receipt, you get treated completely different if you're legitimate, and you get a lot more credibility. And as I said, I've founded a limited company a couple of years ago, and all my wedding money now goes into that, and I've got tax breaks, and I can use expenses. I bought a new Jeep for work, a commercial vehicle. So there's a lot of ways of becoming legitimate that we can do in the hypnosis trade, which hasn't been there. And we need to get back as hypnotists to what it was 20, 30, 40 years ago. And Adrian will testament to this, that you want us to be back in theaters performing for thousands of people. Adrian's the only guy I know who does that, apart from the guys in Vegas. Very few guys are doing that. So we need to add the credibility back to hypnosis, and get us back to where because what we do, as I mentioned earlier, we're very unique. There's only a handful of people in the whole world. There's more stand-up comics, there's more magicians, there's more bands. There's only a handful of hypnotists, and most of us will know each other. There's probably 20, 30 good hypnotists in the world at the level that most of these people that are on your channel tonight are doing it. So we should have a premium for charging, because nobody can do what we can do, and I think that's really important for us to appreciate.
So Natasha Standard's a great point. Always makes me laugh when you overprice a job you don't really want to take, and then they're more than willing to pay anyway.
Yeah. There's a good guy in Australia. I can't remember his name, but he does all these business trainings for hypnotists and therapists. Somebody probably mentioned his name now. He's a bit gung ho, but he did give some good advice. And I remember a story he said when he said, if you were going to a dentist, would you charge, if I was a dentist and you were a dentist, and Grant's dentist will say to you, I'll only charge you 100 quid, but it'll take you 5 visits. Me as a dentist, I'm going to charge you 500 quid, but you only take 1 visit. Who would you prefer to go to? And most people go, I'd rather pay the more money and get it out of the way. Yeah. So, and then if you look at, I've started now from, again, jumping back to a clinical point of view, I see myself as a consultant, and I don't see myself as a regular hypnotist. I say, if you think of a medical doctor, and someone becomes a consultant, so I consider myself a consulting hypnotist. So, but I charge a premium. I'm not doing Groupon deals anymore. I'm not doing Living Social. I'm not doing cheap stuff. I would charge the same for a session that a consultant in a hospital will charge, which over here is around 150 quid. So I charge the same as that, because I'm a specialist and I can fix your problem in one go.
Yeah. And it's someone put a great post up earlier that, and it's brilliant. And it says a placebo is so powerful a thing that even shit therapists get great results.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
By paying more money, there is that placebo effect. There is that you believe you're getting more value from that, so you get better therapy from it just from that alone.
That's what it is. It's a white coat syndrome. People in a white coat with stethoscope, you believe them. And we have no hesitation paying a doctor, $30, $40, $50, $70, whatever it is, for 10 minutes. But yet we won't pay a therapist, So I think that's what I think hypnotists are very rare. I think there's very few good ones. And if you're a good hypnotist and if you're able to help people, you start charging through the roof. And, remember, you'll get better results. You'll get more business. You'll have to work less. So it goes without saying.
Exactly. If you were to give one tip, one bit of advice to a young Jason starting out with the stage stuff, or a hypnotherapist or a stage hypnotist starting out now, one bit of advice that's not the usual thing that they churn out at these trainings, what would that golden nugget be, Jason?
I think my golden nugget is I've always said to people, do shit for free. It's the only way to get started. Stop sitting back in your room waiting. A lot of hypnotists wait to get started. This is not like being a magician. This is not like being a musician. You cannot sit in your room and practice. Get out and do it. So my advice is, do a show. You'll probably fall off a fucking cliff, excuse my language, but the only way to do it is to do it. And the more you do it, the better you become. We all matter who you are. I don't care if it's Richard Barker, if it's Anthony Gailey, I don't care if it's any of the Mike Mandel, I don't care if it's Richard. Every one of us is a nervous wreck doing our first show.
Yeah.
And it's like, eventually it's like driving a car. The more you do it, the more comfortable you get. The more you do it, the more comfortable you get. Then you get confidence, and it just becomes a spiral. And get videos, and spend money on marketing. A lot of people want a load of work and they don't spend any money. You got to spend money on your
especially on Facebook this day and age. Facebook will not show your stuff to your people unless you're paying for it.
And like, make yourself look professional. Like, the amount of hypnotists I've stolen work from in a clinical setting, and I've looked at their website and they got a picture taken on their phone, of their headshot. Spend a few $100, get some headshots done, get some professional videos done, have a proper website. The best advice I did for clinical, not stage, just because it's a separate subject, is I hired someone to answer my phones for the clinical, because I have young kids, and I have a company that for £200 a month answers all my clinical calls and just sends me an email. I call people back when I want it. And that was the best investment I've ever done. My business went up by 200 or 300%. I wasn't sort of on the toilet trying to take a call from someone to stop smoking, or in the car with 3 kids screaming. I just, these people, they ring. I don't have my phone ringing at all times of the hours, days and night. And I just get an email and I ring people back when I want it, or even better, I just email them back. Because as I said, if you were going to see a consultant doctor, you wouldn't just ring him on his mobile. So it's about elevating yourself as a performer, or about a clinical, and saying to yourself, right, I'm top notch. I'm someone said this example, and let me finish on this. If you went to stay in, let's say it was in London, in the Ritz Hotel, you wouldn't ring up and say, what, you want £500 a night? That's ridiculous. Why aren't you charging £100? The guy down the road's £100.
Yeah.
The guy in the 5-star hotel, or the 5-star performer, doesn't care what the 1-star performer is. So as you mentioned about the cream coming to the top, I don't really care who's doing a pub for £50.
Yeah.
Because it's not worth my while. I'm not going to do it. I care about whether I'm going to take over Planet Hollywood's gig, Mark Savard's gig. Yeah, I'm interested in that. I'll talk to or I'll talk to you about getting some cruise gigs off you. But as I said, there's a certain level. And I'm very lucky. When I have a great photograph, and I'll share it next time we talk, with myself and sort of 4 or 5 guys in Vegas who were guys I sat at home with 5 years ago watching videos. There was Mr. P, there was Derek Watkins, Richard Cole, Richard Barker, a couple of Anthony Gailey I met in St. Louis. There was a couple of us that met together, and these are the 5 guys I was watching videos of a couple of years ago. And they came to see my presentation at Hypnothoughts. And that's sort of, you aim to be the best. Who's the best in the world at what we do? And, copy them, steal from them, or do whatever you got to do. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying emulate who the best is. Don't emulate the guy, I want to do a couple of pub gigs for £50. I'm going to emulate Grant and get some couple of grand for a cruise ship. Or I'm going to Richard and try and get in the Late Show, and James Corden. Or I'm going to, whatever it is. Emulate the best of the best and copy them, and that's who you want to try and be like.
Yeah, absolutely. I always ask guests this as well. If you were to recommend 2 books, whether it be stage hypnosis books, business, personal development books, 2 books that you think have had a big impact in your life or would have an impact on their lives, what would those 2 books be?
I won't recommend my books, but I won't recommend them. The best book, Tommy V's dad, Jerry.
Yes.
Second name, I got a blank in my head here.
Jerry
Valley. I read Jerry Valley's book, and when I was at Hypnothoughts, he was sitting beside me, and I was like, "Whoa, look, Jerry Valley!" And I found his book really, really good.
Yeah.
Found it really, really good. And that's for a stage. For like self-development and promotion of yourself, I found there's a great book by the guy with Chicken Soup for the Soul. He wrote a book called The Success Principles. I must look up his name here for you now, but he is Jack Canfield.
Yes.
He wrote a really good book called The Success Principles. But like, I think if you're that's what worked for me. Jerry Valley for stage stuff, and Jack Canfield for personal sort of getting confidence to believe in yourself, But these type of things. There's a really good book if you're in business that I read recently, an audio book that was recommended to me. And just if you're trying to up your game, and it's by Chris Voss. It's called Don't Split the Difference.
Oh,
yeah.
brilliant.
Have you read that book? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Brilliant. Chris Voss is he's got as well. He's got that southern drawl. So yeah, brilliant book.
Right, so definitely, and like a great thing about our business is, as you say, when we're back to normal and we're rocking around the country in our cars or vans, is you have time to do this. So I always think it's great when you're in the, rather than wasting those 2 or 3 hours driving, get audio books, get sessions that you can listen to, whether it's Chris Voss or Anthony Gailey or whoever it is. Get these books and listen to them and learn. Get in, you know, each person. Whether you hear me speaking tonight, you might have got a nugget of information. I did some training with Justin Trance. I got a nugget of information. I went to a conference. Gailey was a speaker. Got a nugget of information. And that's what I heard years ago. Someone said, you know, each one of these trainings, each involvement you make with a group or with a seminar or a podcast or a training, you get a little nugget. And as I said, when I went to Vegas, I saw Savard's show, and that USB idea of getting all the sessions USB became what's made me a couple of $100,000 in the past year. So it's just about working what works for you, getting that nugget of information, and then using it to your own, tailoring it for yourself.
Yeah. And I think that you said as well, making the most of that time when you're driving to gigs.
Yes.
Having an audio program running in the back. It means the time that you'd be spent driving is spent developing and improving the business themselves. So yeah, but Jason, it's been absolutely fantastic. That's a great book. As another recommendation, I've been reading Joe Navarro's What Everybody Is Saying and watching Behavior Panel on YouTube with Chase Hughes. Yeah, absolutely great book as well, Joe Navarro's book. So yeah, fantastic. Jason, what's next for you? What's your next project? What are you doing?
Yeah, well, the big thing for me, where I'm about to, I think if you're, again, going back to clinical, because there's very little to do on stage at the moment, is I'm looking at needle phobias. I'm thinking about launching a funnel, a sales funnel for online programs for needle phobias, because I think as the vaccine rolls out, there's going to be a lot of people who have needle phobias. So 2 things with that is, A, you can make a lot of money with people who have a fear of needles and have to get a vaccine. It's millions of people are going to need a vaccine. It's going to be a huge portion of them who are afraid of needles. That's one thing I'll be looking at building a funnel on. I think that's going to be a lot of business you can make from that as well over the next while. And online therapy is the next big. I said I do pre-recorded sessions, but I think online, everyone's used to online now, and they're all going to start to get involved in it. So no one's afraid of putting their credit card online now or doing Zoom sessions like this. So I think that's going to be big, and you can do it from the comfort of your own home. So that's going to be the next big thing, I think.
Yeah. Speaking of needle phobias, I did a thing probably 6 months ago, probably a bit longer than that actually, and it was for a weird. It makes it sound weird, but it was for a model site thing, and basically the model had a corset fitted, but it was pierced through her skin, and so we did some kind of needle phobia work on that, and then she literally had her spine pierced and then ribbons put through. It's saying it out loud, it sounds really weird, but it looks fantastic. I'll post a picture up at some point. I think social anxiety is going to be massive after this. Natasha Stanley is absolutely right.
Yeah. Any type of anxiety. You know, the key, as I said, is what I've learned is I have a guy who I work with who develops funnels for me. So having a proper sales funnel, having an ad on Facebook, throwing a few bob into an ad on Facebook to get to your funnel, it will repeat itself. It's money for old rope. You got nothing else to do. You're sitting at home at the moment, so you might as well, you know. And then developing, like the big thing we're seeing over here is, and it's all around the world, is the COVID curves. People putting on weight because they're sitting at home. So that's selling well for us. People want to quit smoking because of COVID. Lungs been affected. They want to do it. So like the list is endless of things that you do. It's just about you coming up with a concept. And as I said, that's my next big thing. Will probably be needles, anxieties, and everything, insomnia. Like everyone's messed up after this COVID thing. There's a lot of business to be made for us there to pivot yourself from stage until it comes back anyway.
Absolutely. And again, when you talk about funnels, Natasha Stanley is, she does a lot of work doing that. She's a virtual assistant type stuff. So she does lots of funnels and stuff. So, if anyone's after that type of work as well, if they let her know, she will look after. Jason, thank you very much. Again, it feels like a lifetime away since we met in Dublin. Good luck to everything that you got going on. Hopefully we'll be out of this soon, and take care, and I shall see you soon, buddy.
All right, bye bye.